China's artificial intelligence isn't coming for millions of jobs. It's already taking them, faster than anyone predicted. Researchers estimate that up to 278 million Chinese workers could be displaced by AI by 2049. That's more than the entire population of Brazil. You heard that right. One country's AI transition could render a workforce larger than the world's sixth most populated nation effectively obsolete. And the most alarming part? The economists who made that prediction made it in 2020 before generative AI even existed. What you're about to discover isn't just a job story. It's the story of a nation deliberately engineering the world's first AI-driven economy and how that changes everything for everyone, everywhere. Let's start where it all began, on the factory floor. The factory's where it started and how far it's gone. Picture a factory the size of 11 football fields. No workers, no lights, no noise except the rhythmic precision of robotic arms moving in the dark. No coffee breaks, no shift changes, no human being anywhere on the production floor. This isn't a concept. This isn't a prototype. This is Xiaomi's dark factory in Beijing, a $330 million facility that opened in 2024 and produces one smartphone every single second, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. You heard that right. One smartphone every second, without a single human hand involved. And here's what makes that number hit differently. That one factory, running in complete darkness, outproduces what entire workforces of hundreds of human workers could achieve on their best day, with perfect quality, zero fatigue, and zero error. But Xiaomi isn't even the beginning of this story. Go back to 2016. Foxconn, the company that builds your iPhone, operated a factory in Kunshan, China, with 110,000 workers. 110,000 human beings, punching in every day, assembling the devices the world depends on. Then the robots arrived. Within a short period of time, Foxconn slashed that workforce from 110,000 down to 50,000. 60,000 jobs. Gone. Not outsourced. Not relocated. Eliminated. Replaced by machines that don't call in sick, don't demand raises, and don't need the lights on to do their jobs. And this was 2016, before generative AI, before the current wave, before China even hit its stride. That's the part that should stop you cold. Because what felt like a dramatic headline back then was really just a warning shot. Since 2013, China has been the world's #1 buyer of industrial robots every single year, without exception. By 2022, China was installing 290,000 industrial robots in a single year. That's 52% of the entire planet's industrial robot installations in one country, in 1 year. And by 2024, China's robot density had climbed to 470 robots per 10,000 manufacturing workers. The global average? 141. China isn't just ahead. China is operating in a completely different league. But here's what most people still don't understand about what's happening inside those factories. It isn't just about robots doing physical labor anymore. The old image of a mechanical arm welding a car door? That's the past. What's running China's dark factories today is artificial intelligence. AI that sees, AI that decides. AI that detects a flaw invisible to the human eye, corrects the production process in real time, and optimizes every variable continuously, all without anyone telling it to. These aren't machines following instructions. These are systems that learn, adapt, and improve on their own, working at a speed and consistency no human workforce can match. And the Chinese government didn't stumble into this. They planned it. In 2015, Beijing launched Made in China 2025, a national strategy to transform the country from the world's cheap factory floor into the world's most technologically advanced manufacturing power. The government poured $1.4 billion into robotics research and development in 2023 alone. State subsidies, infrastructure investment, and direct mandates pushed automation into factories at a pace no private market could have generated on its own. The factories didn't just upgrade, they transformed. From Shenzhen's electronics corridors to Wuhan's automotive hubs, dark factories are no longer a pilot program or a future ambition. They are an operational reality running right now, in the dark, while you're reading this. But the factory floor was only the first domino to fall. Because once China proved it could automate production, it turned its attention to something bigger. Something that moves every product, in every city, to every door in the country. The warehouse's speed that human hands cannot match. You already saw what happened on the factory floor. But the factory was just where China tested its weapons. What comes next is where those weapons went to scale. Picture a warehouse. A normal warehouse, the kind that keeps the world's goods moving, typically needs 400 to 500 workers just to operate a single facility. Workers who pick, pack, sort, lift, and load. Workers who need breaks, bathrooms, lighting, heating, and wages. Workers who get tired, make mistakes, and go home at the end of a shift. Now picture that same warehouse with 5 people. That's exactly what JD.com built in Shanghai. A 40,000 square meter facility fully automated, entirely robot-operated, processing 200,000 packages every single day. With 5 human beings on site, whose only job is to make sure the machines keep running. You heard that right. 200,000 packages a day. 5 people. And JD.com CEO didn't try to hide what comes next. He went on record saying he hopes his company will one day be 100% automated. Not someday, that's the plan. But this is where the story gets heavier, because JD.com announced plans to shrink its human workforce from 160,000 people down to just under 8,000. That's not a layoff. That's the near total elimination of an entire workforce. 152,000 human beings, phased out not because they did anything wrong, but because the machines simply do it better. And JD.com isn't alone. Alibaba's logistics arm, Cainiao, built China's largest automated bonded warehouse, a facility where AI-driven robots handle sorting, movement, and tracking with an accuracy rate of 99%. Not 95, 99. The kind of precision that no human sorting operation in history has ever come close to sustaining at that scale. But here's what should stop you cold. The automation didn't stay inside the warehouse walls. It moved into the streets. By the end of 2024, over 6,000 fully autonomous delivery vehicles were operating commercially across China. Not test vehicles, not pilot programs. Commercial operations driving real roads, delivering real packages in over 100 specialized scenarios across Chinese cities and rural areas. And by mid-2025, over 100 Chinese cities had opened their roads to unmanned delivery vehicles entirely. Think about what that number actually means. ZTO Express alone, one logistics company deployed over 2,000 autonomous vehicles, delivering more than 200,000 parcels every single day across more than 200 cities. The economics behind this aren't hard to understand. Autonomous vehicles cut per-order delivery costs by 35 to 45% compared to human drivers. Not a marginal improvement. Nearly half the cost. Gone. And when you can cut costs in half with technology that never sleeps, never calls in sick, and never asks for a raise, you don't phase out human workers gradually. You replace them as fast as the machines can be deployed. This is the part that most people outside China still don't fully grasp. The factory was the beginning. But logistics is where China proved that AI-driven automation can operate at national scale across thousands of cities, millions of deliveries, hundreds of millions of customers with higher speed, lower cost, and near-zero error. The machines didn't just enter the supply chain, they became the supply chain. But factories and warehouses are the places you'd expect automation to reach first. What most people never saw coming is what China did next. Because the next wave of displacement didn't target people who worked with their hands, it targeted people who worked with their minds. White collar is not safe, the office is next. Here's what you probably assumed. You thought automation would stop at the factory gate. That people who use their minds for a living, the accountants, the analysts, the lawyers, the programmers, were safe. You were wrong. Peking University researchers analyzed millions of job postings across China from 2018 to 2024. What they found should make you uncomfortable. Job openings. For roles with high AI exposure, accountants, editors, programmers, customer service workers were already declining. Not because companies were struggling, because AI was doing the work instead. The numbers back it up. Since large language models entered Chinese workplaces, hiring in customer service and operations dropped 2 percentage points. In sales and business development, 5 percentage points. Gone. Not a slowdown, a structural cut. And it isn't just entry-level roles. Finance, audit, tax, and banking positions are now listed among the occupations most vulnerable to AI substitution in China. The CEO of one of China's largest recruitment platforms went on record saying, "These white-collar industries will feel AI's impact before almost any other." Think about what that means for a moment. The jobs that required years of university education, professional certifications, and specialized training, the jobs that were supposed to be the safe destination after manufacturing disappeared, are now next in line. 40% of Chinese workers surveyed by Tencent Research said they are already afraid their job will be replaced by AI. And a senior researcher at DeepSeek, one of China's most powerful AI companies, stood at a public conference and warned the room that AI may eliminate most jobs within the next decade. This isn't speculation. This is people inside the machine telling you exactly what the machine is capable of. And for the first time in history, it's the educated, the credentialed, the white-collar worker who is most exposed. But if you think offices are vulnerable, wait until you see what's happening in the places where human judgment was supposed to be irreplaceable. Healthcare and government, where you'd least expect it. You probably thought there were some places AI couldn't reach. Places where human judgment was too important, too complex, too irreplaceable. You thought wrong. In 2024, Tsinghua University launched the world's first AI hospital. Not a hospital that uses AI as a tool. An AI system with 42 virtual doctors across 21 clinical specialties, capable of diagnosing and treating over 300 diseases entirely on its own. A process that takes a human doctor half a day, this system completes in minutes, with an accuracy rate exceeding 93%. And this isn't contained to one facility. DeepSeek's medical AI is now embedded inside the intranets of over 260 hospitals across China. In Shanghai's Rujin Hospital alone, it processes 3,000 pathological slides every single day. What would have taken a team of human pathologists weeks, handled before lunch. But it doesn't stop at hospitals. China has one radiologist for every 70,000 people. In the United States, that ratio is 1 for every 7,000. AI isn't just improving Chinese healthcare, it's filling a gap that human doctors never could at this scale. And then there's government. AI systems are now processing permit applications, detecting insurance fraud across millions of claims simultaneously, and managing public services that once required entire departments of human administrators. When AI enters government, displacement stops being a market outcome. It becomes state policy. But the most visible transformation of all, the one happening right in front of you on every road in China, is still to come. Transportation. The end of the human driver. You've seen what happened inside the buildings. Now step outside. China has more professional drivers than almost any other nation on earth. Truck drivers, taxi drivers, delivery drivers, tens of millions of people whose entire livelihood depends on one thing: their ability to get behind a wheel and drive. That livelihood is now under direct threat. China accounted for 70% of the global autonomous truck market revenue in 2024. You heard that right. 70%. Not a share, a dominance. And it's accelerating. In late 2024 alone, Inceptio Technology delivered 400 self-driving heavy trucks to logistics giant ZTO Express, one of the largest autonomous truck deployments anywhere in the world. These trucks don't need rest stops. They don't need sleep. They don't need a salary. And they cost 30 to 50 cents per mile to operate, compared to 66 to 84 cents for a human driver. When the math is that clear, you don't phase it out slowly. You move fast. On the passenger side, Baidu's Apollo Go Robotaxi service grew so popular in Wuhan that human taxi drivers formally petitioned the city government to shut it down, not because it was unsafe, because it was half the price. And you can't compete with half price when your competition never sleeps. China isn't testing the end of the human driver. It's building it, city by city, road by road, right now. But none of what you've just heard explains the most important question of all. Why is China moving faster than every other country on Earth? And the answer to that is something most people have never fully understood. Why? China is moving faster than anyone else. You've seen what's being automated. Now you need to understand why China is doing this faster than any other country in human history. Because this isn't happening by accident. There are 5 reasons, and each one is more powerful than the last. The first is demographics. China's population has shrunk 3 years in a row. By 2100, only 36% of the country will be of working age, down from 59% today. China isn't automating to cut costs. It's automating to survive. The second is state power. In the United States, automation is driven by market forces, companies moving at their own pace. In China, the government mandates it, funds it, and deploys it at national scale. No boardroom votes, no union negotiations, no delays. When Beijing decides something happens, it happens everywhere, simultaneously. The third is data. China's AI systems are trained on the largest data sets in human history, generated by 1.4 billion people embedded in AI-powered platforms from the moment they wake up to the moment they sleep. More data means smarter systems, and smarter systems automate faster. But here is where it gets truly uncomfortable. The fourth is patents. China holds 47% of the world's top AI researcher talent and leads the globe in AI patents. It isn't just buying the technology, it's building it. The fifth is strategy. China has declared AI dominance a matter of national security. This isn't a business decision, it's a geopolitical one. And that combination, demographic urgency, state power, data dominance, homegrown talent, and national strategy, is why no other country comes close. But this level of acceleration comes with a human cost that China's own government is quietly terrified of. The human cost. What happens to the workers? Here's the part nobody in power wants to talk about directly. What actually happens to the people left behind? In Shanghai right now, unemployed young professionals are paying $5 a day to sit in a building called Pretend to Work Co., a fake office that offers Wi-Fi, coffee, and the illusion of employment. Not because they're lazy, because there are no jobs waiting for them. Job postings for college graduates in China fell 22% in just the first half of 2025 compared to the year before. 22% in 1 year. And this is happening while the Chinese Communist Party, a government whose entire claim to power rests on its ability to deliver prosperity, watches its workforce grow more anxious by the day. In Wuhan, taxi drivers took to the streets in protest against Baidu's Robotaxis. Not a small thing in a country where public dissent is tightly controlled. Beijing knows the math. If automation replaces 70% of manufacturing jobs, a scenario China's own economists call plausible, the social insurance system starts to collapse. Because that system runs on payroll contributions. No workers means no contributions. No contributions means no safety net for the millions who need it most. The government's answer so far? Reskilling programs, tax incentives, a proposed AI unemployment insurance fund. But here is the brutal truth. There is no retraining program in history that has successfully absorbed this volume of displaced workers at this speed. And what's happening inside China won't stay inside China. What comes next is the part the rest of the world hasn't fully woken up to yet. The global impact. This isn't just China's problem. Here's what you need to understand about everything you've just heard. None of it stays inside China's borders. Think about Bangladesh, Vietnam, Ethiopia, countries that spent decades building their entire economic futures around one strategy: become the next cheap manufacturing hub. Attract the factories. Employ the workers. Climb the ladder out of poverty. That ladder is being pulled up. When a Chinese factory can run 24 hours a day with 0 human workers at a fraction of the cost, no developing economy on Earth can compete on price. The manufacturing jobs that were supposed to lift the next generation of the global poor out of poverty are being automated away before those countries ever get the chance to claim them. Entire economic development models that worked for South Korea, for Taiwan, for China itself just a generation ago, are being made obsolete in real time. But this isn't just a story about developing nations. It hits you directly too. China installed nearly 300,000 new robots in 2024 alone. The United States installed 34,000. You heard that right. China outpaced America by nearly 9-1. And every robot China adds widens the productivity gap between the two largest economies on Earth. That gap translates into cheaper products, faster production, and a cost structure that forces every competing economy to make a brutal choice: automate at the same pace, or accept being outcompeted. There is no third option. There is no waiting it out. The pressure is already here. And China isn't just automating itself. It's exporting its AI infrastructure, its autonomous systems, its smart factory technology, its logistics platforms to countries across Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. China isn't just building the world's first AI-driven economy. It's building the blueprint that everyone else will be forced to follow. But the biggest question of all is still unanswered. What does a fully AI-driven economy actually look like? And what does it mean for the future of work everywhere? The world's first AI-driven economy, and what it means for you. Here is the biggest thing you need to take away from everything you've just heard. China is not automating its economy, it is replacing it. By 2030, Goldman Sachs projects AI adoption in China will exceed 30% and reach full adoption within 15 years. China has already declared its goal: become the global leader in artificial intelligence by 2030, and unlike most countries that announce ambitious targets and miss them, China has the state power, the data, the talent, and the urgency of a shrinking population to actually do it. What you are watching in real time is the construction of something that has never existed before in human history. An economy where AI is not a tool that workers use. An economy where AI is the worker. Where the factories think. Where the warehouses move themselves. Where the roads navigate autonomously. Where the hospitals diagnose without doctors. Where the government administers without administrators. And here is the part that should keep you awake at night. China's core AI industry is projected to reach $1.4 trillion by 2030 when related sectors are included. That isn't a technology industry. That is an entire economic operating system built on artificial intelligence, owned by the state, and optimized for a scale no other country has ever attempted. And when one nation rewrites the rules of how an economy functions at this scale, every other nation eventually has to play by those rules, whether they chose them or not. The jobs being eliminated in China today are a preview. The factories going dark in Shenzhen are a rehearsal. The technology being perfected on Chinese roads, in Chinese hospitals, in Chinese government offices, it is being refined, packaged, and prepared for the world. The question the rest of the world is still debating whether to automate. How fast? At what cost to workers? China has already answered. It answered it in the dark. In a factory with no lights, no workers, and no intention of slowing down. And now the whole world has to decide what to do with that answer.